Hello, what is up guys, and welcome to Should You Play Ryse, Son of Rome. This is of course the PC port, or maybe you can't use that word, PC version of the Xbox One game, well the Xbox One exclusive Ryse, Son of Rome. It's developed by Crytek, and because of that reason it's using the Cry engine, and it's not going to really ruin the surprise to say this is just an absolutely gorgeous game. We get on that more a bit later. It's worth noting that I have played this game on the Xbox One, and of course it does run at a lower resolution on the Xbox One. The gameplay is the same, it's the same game. The options menu provides many things. You can see we've got some pretty standard game settings. You can change the controls if you want. You can, okay, controls get. I think you can't actually rebind the keys though. I think you can only change between presets, which is quite annoying, but for a game like this I much prefer to use the controller anyway. In the graphics menu we have this, which is my new favourite thing, new favourite PC setting, which is rendering resolution. How does that differ from window resolution? Well, if you're running a 4K monitor, and say you only have one GTX 970, or you have a 770 or something like that, which realistically isn't powerful enough for 4K, but you know, so you have this 4K screen, you want to get the most out of it. If you set your rendering resolution to about 80%, and then you set your window resolution to the full 4K, then you're going to get the 4K overlay. Everything's going to be nice and sharp, it will upscale the rest, but you're actually going to save yourself the frames per second while getting similar image quality, which is great. You can go the other way and use super sampling as well, so you can see I can either run it at 1.5 times or 2 times, which is essentially just going to improve the image quality through reducing jaggy lines. So very similar to anti-aliasing. Graphics quality I've got here on custom, but you've got low, normal and high. Texture resolution I don't think you can change, that's automatically set as far as I can tell, depending on how much RAM you have in your texture, VRAM I should say, make that very clear. Native upscaling, so that is linked to that, so upscale, if you turn that off the window thing will go away. Full screen, pretty obvious, VSync and lock frames a second. Lock frames a second will cap it at 30. So if you've got a lesser powered rig and you're running the thing at 60 frames a second, 60 Hertz I should say, but you only want 30 frames a second for a smooth experience, then you're going to want to use this. If we go into advanced, all of these only go up to high, so we've got shading, object, shadows, particle, animation, motion blur I like to leave off, but if you want to leave that on, you know, if you're a fan of motion blur, then sure, by all means. And then temporal anti-aliasing, which does a good job, and anisotropic filtering. It's worth noting that if you set everything to high, then that goes to 8 times rather than 16 times for some reason, so you have to change that. You get all the DLC, so if you want the DLC, you've got it. How much you'll play of the multiplayer, I'm not sure. That is just essentially a theatre-esque mode. I'll show you that. Yeah, I might show you that in a minute. But the campaign is obviously what this game is all about. So I'm about 5 minutes into a level, and you can see that this game is just beautiful. I'm not quite sure whether it's as good as Crysis. I mean, it is using the same engine, so it certainly should be. But everything on the screen looks gorgeous. There are very few things that look out of place, like these leaves. You know, I'm being particularly picky, but literally look at it. It is very beautiful. Character models are incredibly detailed. And even running at 4K, I only managed to get about 20 frames a second off a single GTX 980 at max settings, but it looked absolutely beautiful. So if you have the hardware, then it's definitely worth doing. The gameplay, however, does not get quite as much praise from me. Essentially what you have is this wheel thing that says, do you want to gain health, do you want to gain this boost thing, do you want to gain attack damage or XP? So you select one of those. So you kind of have to semi-micromanage that, but not really. And there's no stealth system. You just have to kind of go up there and attack people. And let's be very clear, I've just gone from playing Shadow of Mordor on the PC to playing this game. And that does not help Ryse out at all, because simply put, the gameplay just isn't as good. All you really seem to do is try and hack people down. You can block. You block using A, light attack using X, and then you use these button prompts to do an execution, and they look pretty good, don't get me wrong, they look pretty nice. You can do this boost thing as well. Oh, bang, I'll show you in a second when I get some. I'm not that great, but the whole thing just doesn't feel quite as smooth as something like the Batman system. You could maybe say that that's because it's trying to be more realistic, but then again, it's not very realistic, is it? Oh, I'm gonna die in a minute. I need to take this guy out. So it's alright once you actually get used to the actual combat, but this is really all the game is. Sometimes you gotta like do some arrows. But you see, if I deliberately, alright, I was gonna say if I deliberately miss, I'll show you here. If I deliberately miss one and press X, I just get this recruit here. So it doesn't really make any difference at all. It just means you get less points, and then you use these points to actually upgrade your abilities. So I'll show you that now. You go into skill upgrades, and then you have these things. You can upgrade health, focus, and then your actual XP and boost gain. There we go. But I kind of just do it, really. I don't really think about what I'm doing. It's not like some of the other systems when I spend about 5 minutes actually in the menus choosing what's going to be best. It's kind of, you know, it doesn't really seem to make that much difference if you ask me. So it is a bit of a shame, but I think actually there weren't that many people that were really looking forward to getting this game on PC to actually experience the games. It was all about the graphics, and on that front it's a big success. It runs very well. It hasn't had any really major bugs or anything. There's been a couple of times that it crashed due to low RAM, but I believe that was because I was uploading 200 photos at the same time, so we let that off, and it hasn't done it since. There you go, I died. The other thing as well that's a bit weird is ouch. The other thing that is a little bit weird, I'm playing with an Xbox 360 controller, and it uses the Xbox One button prompts. Not a major difference, but I have no idea why they couldn't change them, or at least add a a clause in the code. The way it works now is that there's like a loop that always searches for a controller. I don't get why they couldn't have two different if statements, one for if it's a Xbox One controller and one for if it's a 360 controller. It just seems like it would have taken someone an hour to put that in, but I'm not a games designer, I'm not sure. So that's a little bit weird, but I'm sure you can get over that. But I don't get why they didn't change that. It just seems a bit weird to me. I mean, not many people use an Xbox One controller. Yeah, so if you like button prompts, great. But if you actually want some rich, solid gameplay, I'm afraid there's not that much to be seen here. There's plenty of different environments. The game itself is going to take you between 5, 6, 7 hours, maybe. There are more collectibles, but I personally can't really see many people doing that. It's just a tiny bit too repetitive, if you ask me. So even something like Batman, the combat can get a bit repetitive after a while, but obviously you've got plenty of story and stuff to do while you're there as well, and exploration. But this is just 100% linear game using this gameplay, and I can't really recommend that anyone buys it at full price if they want a really nice, big, solid game. If you do want a game to show off your new graphics card, then actually this isn't going to be a bad shout. Whether you want to do that at full price, though, is another matter. There is no benchmark, which I think is a big opportunity missed. A lot of people will be getting hold of this game because they want to see how good it can look and push their rigs to the max, especially with the 4K scaling that it's got, because it does look very good at 4K, all the textures pop and it looks pretty fantastic. So why there wasn't a benchmark in it, I think that is a bit silly, really. You've got to do heavy attack. There we go, heavy attack. So outside a few cool looking executions, I can't say there's much here for you. And it's one of those games that if you picked it up in a Steam sale, I think you could actually get your money out of it. But at the moment, at least, I think the RRP was £35 here in the UK. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'll put it in the description below if that's a mistake. But for £35, I think, to be honest, you can do quite a bit better. You've got stuff like Shadow of Mordor that is at the moment, looks maybe not quite as good, but it's certainly one of the best looking games. I said it was one of the best looking third person games I've ever said. So it kind of steals a bit of Ryse's thunder there. And along with that, you get a much deeper core game with a lot of stuff to do, and unfortunately that just isn't the case with this game. But I think most of us knew that was going to be the case. Obviously the reviews for the Xbox One version, so the actual reviews of the game itself rather than the platform it's on, has been out for a while, so I think most people are expecting that. So yeah, you'll get some enjoyment out of it, but if you really do want to pump up all the settings, you will need a powerful rig as well. Bang. Anything, I would say, like a 680, 770, maybe 780, and you'll be able to hit all the max settings. You do need quite a bit of VRAM to actually do it, so maybe actually the 680 with its 2GB of RAM isn't going to quite be enough. It is an unfortunate trend now that all the ports of the PlayStation and Xbox One games use more VRAM, but that's just because of the shared memory architecture of the new next generation consoles. It's quite hard to talk and combat at the same time. There we go, get him. There we go, done. Yeah, so should you play Ryse? Well, if you like fairly repetitive button prompt gameplay, then yes. If you want a game that is going to keep you entertained for hours and you're going to get loads of your, good value for money like most of us do, I can't say I can recommend this game for you. Not at full price anyway. If you do want something that looks absolutely beautiful, has quite a lot of multiplayer DLC, maybe you've played Ryse before, then I think actually yes, this probably isn't a bad shout for you. You can see that we're on Act 4 and there are eight acts, so there's a fair amount of stuff to do, but it's not going to take you that long. And personally, if I paid £35 for this game full price, I think I would have been disappointed. Don't forget though that there is that multiplayer. I might put that in another video in, a casual player. I can't even remember the name of my own series now. But yes, this has been Ryse, this has been the PC-centric Should You Play, and the answer is, should you play Ryse? Not really, because there's not actually that much to play. But like I say, looks absolutely gorgeous. I wholeheartedly encourage you to actually go and take a look. It is very interesting on the graphic side, and if you do have the hardware and you can get it at a decent price, might not actually be that much of a bad shout. So thank you very much for checking out this full review of Ryse. There's loads of good stuff coming up on the channel. You might have noticed that I mentioned that I've tested this out in 4K. How have I managed to do that? What's changed hardware-wise? Find out on the channel very soon. If you like this video, give it a like. If you dislike this video, give it a dislike. And of course, subscribe to PC Centric for more videos like this and other game reviews, as well as other videos on PCs, gaming and technology. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.